this is Mossad bastards. They've done this in a public way. Brutal. I was really shocked by the brutality of it. Israel is the terrorists. They created global terrorism.
News, current affairs, facts and opinion. Their future in our hands. Markets, globalist technocrats versus the people. A line in the sand. The McIntyre Report.
And welcome, folks, back to another episode of the McIntyre Report, Australian National Review, live in the studios here. Charlie Kirk, who killed him, is still breaking the internet. It's obviously enthralled people to find out what's behind this. Maybe more so because the official narrative seems to be full of holes and not too many people are buying what the intelligence agencies and fake news media tell people these days. Maybe people are just waking up to the fact, and especially with the rise of independent media and the good work of independent media journalists such as Candace Owens is doing great, and Tucker Carlson on this topic. They just won't shut up, much to the hate of Israel. They don't want too much talking about the official narrative not being true because it sends the blame back to the most likely prime suspect, which still remains to be Israel. Why do so many people think Israel was behind the killing of Charlie Kirk? Well, those in the know in recent months, Charlie Kirk, who was originally pro-Israel and a Zionist and was funded by Israel, had a turning point, you could say, in his life where he started to realize that, you know, Epstein is Mossad agent. And October 7th, it's really, you know, questions need to be asked about that. One, was there stand-down orders, which he clearly asked and called out Netanyahu, refused to go and see Netanyahu. Netanyahu come out immediately doing a roadshow, one, denying that Israel had anything to do with Charlie Kirk's death, but also painting a picture which has turned out to be exposed not to be true, that they were really good buddies and friends, and basically trying to martyr him and just say really nice things about Charlie Kirk, when the reality was the sponsors of his shows, the Israeli and Jewish sponsors, billionaire sponsors, were harassing him, intimidating him, having major hissy fits if he continued to have Tucker Carlson speak. Candace Owens already was stopping speaking because both these independent journalists refused to shut up and stop criticizing Israel, as everyone has every right to criticize Israel, especially Americans in America. They should be able to criticize any foreign nation that's involved or interfering or has undue influence over the American foreign policy in the entire country. And you could say the same about Australia and the West, that this foreign nation has way too much power. But people are starting to realize that. And of course, they don't like being criticized. They'll call you, of course, you're an anti-Semitic if you dare criticize Israel, or worse, you're a Jew hater, or now you're funded by Qatari, you know, as they suggest anyone is that's speaking out. Their propaganda and independent paid shills, well, not independent, but paid Israeli shills and influencers, massive budgets go into people. And we're just going to see typical, here's someone that's taking a lot of money, obviously, from Israel, and they have a hissy fit when they're confronted. See, we put up here at Australian National Review $1 million last year. $1 million challenge of many challenges we put up. If for someone, please take it. All you have to do is provide a logical argument of why any individual, any nation on the planet should stand with Israel. That cannot be easily debunked as Israeli propaganda. $1 million is still up for grabs if anyone can provide that argument. We actually invited Charlie Kirk for a debate several months ago, which was, you know, for the Free Speech Summit, because up until then he was pro-Israel, and to debate myself about, you know, why should you be pro-Israel? I mean, he's a very good debater. Sadly, that never eventuated, but Charlie, since that time, had started to have a turning point, as I said, in his life, and start to realize that, hang on, Israel is not the beloved Israel that many Christians, Zionists like himself, had read about in the Bible. And he'd started to question, you know, maybe this modern day state of Israel, created in 1948 by banking cartel family, dear Lord Rothschilds, and three terror groups, if you look at the history of it, is not perhaps God's chosen ones, that maybe God didn't choose these individuals. Maybe we should fact check that, and maybe we shouldn't take their word for it. Rothschilds, if you're not aware, are not don't believe in God. They're not Christians. They don't have traditional values or any Christian values whatsoever. They're known as satanic Luciferians. Very dark history. They've been behind most wars on the planet. They lied to us about who started World War II. It was them. They controlled the British Empire through Churchill as a stooge. They took over the Russia and made Soviet Union introduce communism when they killed the Tsar family, one of the most cruelest, darkest ways they could torture and kill that entire family. You want to check the history of that out, at what the sort of level of evil Satanism that we're talking here, these type of people. That's why they've been behind pretty much every genocide on the planet, their family, for a very long period of time. But of course, they will call us Holocaust deniers if we question the 6 million Jews were gassed by Hitler, fabrication and exaggeration of an 80-year-old genocide, that the Holocaust, the only one you're allowed to talk about, because that's the one they didn't do. And that's one that has no independent verification, and we certainly know 6 million didn't die. We won't get onto that topic now, will we? But there's certainly, some died, but sadly, many people died in prisoner war camps. What did they die of is questionable, most likely starvation and believed to be typhus, not from being gassed to death. But even if they were gassed to death, it's a hell of a lot more humane than being starved to death or firebombed to death, like what's going on in Gaza right now. A modern day Holocaust we can see between our eyes, but these people that accuse us of being Holocaust deniers are denying in front of us a Holocaust. They just want you to deflect back to an 80-year-old one that doesn't stand up to scrutiny. As I said, is exaggerated and parts of it fabricated. And they call Holocaust deniers everyone else, but the Rothschilds were behind most Holocausts on the planet. 30 to 60 million Christians in Russia. The Holocaust one in Ukraine, Armenian genocide, the firebombing of German cities such as Dresden, the bombing of atomic bombs dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. I mean, that was the Rothschilds. That was the founders of Israel. That is the death cult that runs Israel. So many Christian Zionists are starting to wake up. Thank God that the fake state created 77 years ago is not the biblical Israel you read in the Bible. They're fraudulently ripping off that name, and they're stealing land and killing people. But some people still want to stand with Israel. How can you be a Christian and stand with Israel is the question we have. But look at some people having hissy fits. Check this out.
Netanyahu is a bad guy.
This is not for me. I'm not interested in this.
Okay, I know.
I'm sorry.
Let's be good. Let's be good about precious Israel. Let the country commit a genocide. Yeah. Okay.
Zero. I think you guys agree. I fundamentally disagree with you about.
Watch Zionist podcaster Jillian Michaels lose her mind on air after failing to stop young Americans from criticizing her beloved Israel.
Wait, please do not get No, because I didn't want to cover this, and you guys insisted. And I told you, you cover this shit, I'm gonna rip you apart. Told you, you cover this shit, I'm gonna rip you apart.
It turns out, by her own admission in the studio and later in a furious tweet, Jillian Michaels had been pressuring her co-hosts to keep Israel off the show. When they refused to bow to her demands, she snapped and completely lost her mind.
I had a problem with Netanyahu exploiting an assassination in this country for his own political means and purposes, and lying about the nature of his relationship with Charlie Kirk, because Charlie Kirk didn't like Netanyahu, just like any warm-blooded American shouldn't. Netanyahu is a bad guy.
This is not for me. I'm not interested in this.
Okay, I know.
I'm sorry.
Let's be good. Let's be good about precious Israel. Let the country commit a genocide. Yeah. Okay.
Zero. I think you guys agree. I fundamentally disagree with you about. I'm sorry.
Cool. So can we continue the conversation?
Yeah, let's.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Wow. Okay, guys. So
I'm sorry. It's a foreign country, and we have the right to be as critical of a foreign country as we want. We have the right to be as critical of our own country as we want. And we are Americans.
And you know what? We get in less trouble for being critical of America
100%.
than if we were to be
100%.
critical of Israel. I'm just like shocked. Yeah, that's when things start to get a little bit weird.
If you have an emotional breakdown every time someone criticizes a foreign country, I really think you should do some self-examination.
I think there's something wrong right now in American culture where there's literally just one country and one government that is just above any and all criticism
And
or
Charlie said
backlash.
that. You know?
That is right.
That's what
Charlie
he's
did
been
say
saying.
that.
I have less ability sometimes online to criticize the Israeli government about backlash than actual Israelis do. And that's really, really weird.
We should be able to have these conversations because it's taxpayer-funded operations. We are sending so many weapons there. We are taking a beating
We are.
on the international stage
Absolutely.
for this country.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about it. Let's
No,
see
no,
if this
it is
a
our
violent-
right.
Hey,
I'm not asking permission. It is our right as Americans to talk about anything we see fit. I'm not going to let a foreign country or American supporters of a foreign country to censor me or censor anyone.
Well said, girls. That was great to see. The Israeli podcaster there be most upset because she would be funded by Israel to push Israeli propaganda and avoid difficult conversations because it's only going to make Israel look bad. So she doesn't want to engage in conversation and expose for that. I would say to people, independent journalists, citizen journalists, any member of the public, start calling out anyone that's pro-Israel and start debating and engaging in debate. Because if they want to continue to stand with such an evil regime and push, baseless propaganda that, Zionism is a curse upon the planet. And it's not me just saying this. I mean, how many people are saying this? We've been one of the earliest to call it out. And it's not that I'm anti-Jewish or anti-Semitic, as they would like to make out. As I said, half my friends are Jewish, and I have many Jewish billionaires, and I've hosted them, and they've hosted me, and I have good relationships with Jewish people. But no decent human will stand for what Netanyahu and the Israeli government is doing. It's out of line, it's arrogant, and it thinks it can act above international law and just go about doing what it wants, and it thinks it can lie and deceive to us. So the problem they're facing is Israel PR machine is they're probably run by older people. And when the days of newspapers and TV, they could just have time to push out the false narrative. They control the intelligence agencies. So you know why most people are not believing the patsy Tyler Robertson is the real killer of Charlie Kirk, because we've seen the pattern before. As we said, if it's Israel behind it, they control the intelligence agencies. So you can't listen to the intelligence agencies that go, oh, like many of the politicians do, here's the report from intelligence agencies. Oh, that's what happened. Here's the report. They also give the same report to the media, and that's what they run. They own your media. They own the intelligence agencies, and they also own, obviously, majority of the US congressmen and majority of the politicians around the world. So that's why you get continually fed. So even if you don't have time to be an investigative journalist or a citizen journalist and know how the world works, they've told people before, whatever they're telling you in fake news media and intelligence agencies, that's a lie. It's the complete opposite. Now, same with Netanyahu. If Netanyahu's denying Israel had anything to do with the death of Charlie Kirk, there is pretty much 99% surety that they did, because he doesn't tell the truth about anything. So he's clearly lying. And why is he so defensive and coming out? No other leader on the planet, the Russian president, Iranian president, Chinese president, no other world leaders had to come out continually multiple times and, it's not, Israel has nothing to do with it, it's absurd, deny. Why are you so guilty? Why you feel the need you have to defend yourself about that? It's because many people have figured out how the world works and that Israel's behind most things, behind the September 11th attack. It's 24 years later, and how many people still haven't figured out it was Israel that did September 11th? Who benefited from it? Who had motive? Who had capability? 7 wars in 5 years, the Pentagon told General Wesley Clark shortly thereafter. He said 7 wars in 5 years. That was their plan. Now, it took them 24 years. They just had their 7th war or 6th war was with Syria, when ISIS-funded army, which is Israel's proxy army, was able to take over Syria for Israel, which is their typical target. So people go, we must stand against the evil of these terrorists. Israel is the terrorists. They created global terrorism. Pretty much every terrorist attack on the planet you can trace back to Israel. And some people go, we can't blame Israel for everything. Well, no, we can. Should we stop blaming Israel for everything they do? No, of course we shouldn't. Israel is behind nearly all wars, the founders of Israel, nearly all terrorist attacks. They fund terrorism. Oh, but it's the Muslims, it's Islamic extremists, they're taking over the world. One, they couldn't if they wanted to. Most Arab nations can't organize themselves to defend themselves, let alone take over the world. But that's a narrative that Israel wants you to believe. Israel funds Islamic terrorists. Israel puts Mossad operatives in there, ISIS operatives to do horrible, atrocious things to blame Hamas or to blame whoever they want to blame. They'll put the terrorists in a country, say Syria, to destabilize the government, the Assad government, and anyone that doesn't allow a Rothschild central banking system is an evil dictator. Assad was called an evil dictator because he wouldn't allow his country to be taken over by the Rothschilds, just like they called Putin an evil dictator because he booted the Rothschilds out. That's why they don't like China, because they can't get their control of China. But see, Australia is a democracy, England's a democracy, America is a democracy. Why? Because they control and own our central banking system. Therefore, they get to set the interest rates. They get to set the income taxes, etc. They get to see who gets taxed and who doesn't. Obviously, the globalists and the corporations don't pay much tax, but you do. All this can stem back to the founders of Israel. Let's go to a quick ad break, and we'll be back with some more.
What does $78,000 get you in Bali? Introducing Resort KNVOs by LUX. Studios from $79,000 AUD. Hotel-style amenities. Live, work, unwind. Unique design villas, live in or rent out. Prime Seminyak location. Steps to dining, buffets and beach clubs. Projected net annual returns, 12 to 18% PA. Thinking of moving to Bali? Own your place in Seminyak. Own at Resort KNVOs by Lux.
The McIntyre Report.
Welcome back to McIntyre Report, ANR.news. Follow our 24-hour news headlines here in the Australian National Review studios. Independent media, originally created in Australia, but we now broadcast out of Australia for our own safety. Obviously, Australia is heading the way of the global World Economic Forum. You'll own nothing but be happy. The globalists have full control of Australia, and censorship and independent journalists. It's simply not safe to operate in Australia anymore. Is that sad to say? Especially when we talk about things such as Israel, be a little bit critical of Israel or just basically expose what Israel is doing. And they want anti-Semitism to drop, which they don't. Israel loves anti-Semitism. They need it to push their agendas. They want people to hate them so they can go, see, it's your fault. Hate speech laws. We need hate speech laws. That's what we do, which is not hate speech laws. It's censorship. Anti-Semitism laws. We need anti-Semitism laws because we've got to protect the feelings of Jewish people. We don't give a fuck about the parents that are collecting the body parts of their children that Israel's dropped bombs on relentlessly, deliberately, targeting civilians and not targeting anyone else. I mean, 33 of the 36 hospitals, medical centers in Gaza have been bombed. Only 8,000 Hamas have been killed, and half of those aren't even Hamas. They're just workers, people that work in the government in Palestine, they count. So about 4,000. In a war in Russia, Ukraine, about 1.3 million Ukrainian soldiers are dead and only 8,000 civilians in that war. very low civilian count compared to the deaths of Ukrainian soldiers. Add a couple of 100,000 more for Russian soldiers, so about 1.5 million deaths, only 8,000. But in the Gaza war, if you could call it a war, is, you know, only 4,000 Hamas eliminated, but now estimates of well over 100,000, but was 377,000 estimated to be missing. They're missing, they're under the rubble, dead. This now as high as 600,000 believed to be killed by Israel. So it's a clear target. I mean, is Hamas under every single building? They would know where Hamas is because they funded the tunnels for Hamas. Half of Hamas are Mossad operatives doing atrocious things so they can frame and tell you Hamas is so evil. Everyone else is evil, but the ones that are dropping bombs on children, and the only piece they want is pieces of children's body parts spread throughout the Middle East, so then they can build Trump Tower on and run the Ben Gurion Canal through Gaza, so they no longer need to rely on the Red Sea. Interesting. Talking about that, we will cover more of that shortly.
Have you ever wondered why Israel attacks Gaza again and again? Why not the West Bank? Why Gaza only? To understand, we go back to 1956. That year, Egypt's president nationalized the Suez Canal. This canal is a lifeline for world trade. It connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. Without it, ships must circle Africa. More time, more cost, less trade. 12% of global trade still passes through Suez, and Egypt earns billions from it. But back then, Egypt blocked Israel's ships. For 8 years, Israel's trade was strangled, so Israel dreamed of its own canal, the Ben Gurion Canal, a rival to the Suez, 300 kilometers long, billions in cost. But here's the twist. The straightest and cheapest route runs through Gaza. That means displacement. That means bombings. That means blood. For Israel, Gaza isn't just territory. It's a barrier standing in the way of a canal that could change global trade. Remember, the Panama Canal controls 5% of trade. Suez controls 12%. Together, that's 17% of the world's economy. And imagine if Israel had that kind of power. So next time you hear about bombings in Gaza, ask yourself, is this really about security, or is it about trade, canals, and control of the world's lifelines?
Fair enough questions. Of course, many people already know about that. The Ben Gurion Canal, it's one of the reasons why they want Gaza, plus all the oil and gas off the coast of Gaza they wish to steal. Plus, they simply, I don't know, cheap bastards who don't want to buy land, just want to get rid of people. I mean, it's just sad. There's no justification for this, but no, they'll be upset if you dare recognize Palestine as a state. Well, it shouldn't even have to recognize Palestine as a state. It's their land. Oh no, this was given to us 3,000 years ago. No, it wasn't. Israelis would not pass a DNA test. They don't. That's why DNA testing is banned. They're Eastern Ukrainian. They're Eastern Europeans from Eastern Ukraine. The Rothschilds, that's where their clan is from. The Israeli prime minister is Polish. There's nothing Jewish about them. They're fake Jews. So if you want to be anti-Jewish, it'd be very difficult to find the real Jews. That's certainly not there. So the more people find out about Israel, the less people like Israel. That's why they're deeply, deeply concerned. Let's expose some more.
Watch him cook.
I don't understand the relationship between America and Israel. It's like it's the most effed up situation ever. We're like the world's most pathetic sugar daddy. We give them billions of dollars and they shit on us. Like Mr. Jonathan said, now we're ganging on them. We're not helpful. Dude, we gave you $30 billion to bomb children and it's not enough for you. Like, I mean, at least when you pay a dominatrix, you know that you're getting fucked. But this is just America having a public humiliation king while getting fucked, and they call this foreign policy. They are arresting American students on American soils for protesting Israeli war crimes. What the hell, man? This is like your crack whore making you beat your children for calling her what she is, a whore. And the thing, this is what really boggles me in America. The right and the left, they fight each other tooth and nail over gun control, education, minorities' rights, healthcare, DEI. But when it comes to Israel, everybody competes to be Israel's favorite bitch. Republicans hate handouts unless it's for Israel. And Democrats, they love human rights unless it's for the Palestinians. I mean, this is a Delulu state. You guys are Delulu. You are Delulu. Like, I came here today to witness for myself how someone can lie so shamelessly. The guy is like a human pinball machine. Every question lies on him, ends on Hamas. It's like a magic 8-ball with one answer, Hamas. At least flat earthers, they make things interesting. You guys are boring. You are like the same thing. I left all of this. I left the media because of this. I come back. It's a freaking Groundhog Day. Every day, the same question, the same thing. Dude, nobody believes you. You are liars.
Gotta love him, calling out the truth. But it's true. If you want to lie for Israel, they'll pay you money to be an influencer. You're going to influence your life for them. But if you dare criticize Israel and you're funded by Israel like Charlie Kirk was with his Turning Point organization, and then have a turning point in your life where you realize, hang on, this is bullshit. This is not true. I can no longer, if I have morals and principles, stand and push Israeli propaganda when it's not true. And Charlie couldn't. He was a person of principle, Christian. He realized once he realized it's not true, he couldn't continue to push it. And that's what people have to realize.
The ones who were offended by my speech, and there was a small, very intense group who were, tormented Charlie Kirk until the day he died. 2 days before he died, he lost a $2 million donation because he had publicly pledged to bring me to the next Turning Point conference in December. And he told me over the past couple of months he was losing a lot of donations over that pledge. They put out a flyer basically saying that I was going to be at this event giving a speech. And so he would text me and say, man, I'm really taking a lot of heat for this, and people are really mad. The American Jewish Committee called in a statement Charlie Kirk an anti-Semite and, quote, dangerous. Charlie Kirk, an anti-Semite. Yeah. He was not an anti-Semite. He was the opposite, and he was not dangerous. He was a great lover of people and a purveyor of peace. He was the opposite, and he was very stung by that. Those of us who've been called names for a long time are a little bit harder to offend. Charlie was deeply offended by that and expressed some of those feelings on Megyn Kelly's show and in other places. But that did not let up. The reason I'm telling this story is because he called me and then came to see me at my house about this topic. And I said to him every single time, look, I've got my own way to communicate my views. This is actually not the most important issue to me. There are lots of things I can talk about. I don't need to come to Turning Point. I can take a year off, no problem. I hated seeing how much he was suffering, the hassle he was getting from people, and I was being attacked too, by the way.
Very interesting, isn't it? The truth coming out. Israel wanted to paint with Netanyahu and their influencers that, oh, we love Charlie. As we said, we predicted here, the Australian National Review, you can check what we said. We put up $1 million challenge the next morning after we heard Charlie Kirk had been killed. I said straight away, this is Mossad bastards. They've done this in a public way. Brutal. I was really shocked by the brutality of it. Like sometimes they'll knock people off silently, organize a car accident or whatever. No one knows about it, and it's all covered up. But to do it, humiliate, brutal, in full public, assassinate Charlie Kirk. And then I said, if it's Israel, which is a prime suspect, so they're number one suspect straight away because that's what they do. They assassinate leaders and political figures all the time, right? Is there a week go by there and try and kill someone and some country's leader to take over and steal their resources or to shut someone up? No. And then I said, if it is Israel, they'll come out on a roadshow trying to deny it. They'll also paint a left-wing transgender nutter. They'll have a patsy, and the real killer won't be the patsy, Lee Harvey Oswald, JFK type assassination. The real killer will be someone closer to Charlie, usually in a security detail that shoots him from close range. Look for that, and there's evidence coming out of that. And how are we able to predict these things? Because we know their playbook. And then, of course, they'll lie, and then but these days they get caught out from the lie because there's billions of citizen journalists out there. You are out there watching, and you go out and do your research and you fact check. Some people get misled down psyops as far as Charlie faked his death. Maybe, possibly could have, but the evidence certainly doesn't suggest that. He suggests he was hit with something with significant force that jerked his neck to the left, which means he was shot from the right, not from the front, if he was shot. But the probability of Charlie still being alive, to those who want to believe in that, is pretty remotely low. So I wouldn't bet your house on that or hang your reputation on that like some people foolish are doing. It's a low probability. Where Israel doing the killing, they have motive, they have easy capability, they control the intelligence agencies in America and the West. The motive was very clear. Charlie had turned the last few months and is one of the most influential political commentators in America, especially for the under 30s, which that's why they've just bought TikTok, taken TikTok out, Larry Ellison and Israel. And already, as of, I'm sure that I can show you yet, but we'll show you later in the episode if we can't. But it's already being, I just posted on my Twitter, the evidence of that. They're removing the videos highlighting that Larry Ellis and Israel taking over TikTok to censor it. That's the only reason they wanted TikTok, not because China's spying on Americans and want to know what Americans think. You know, I think they pretty much already know what Americans think. Besides not much, is that Chinese government, there's nothing about that. It's just on TikTok, it's a lot of young people are anti-Israel. A lot of under 30s are. And that's why Charlie also was starting to wake up, because his audience was waking up to Israel. And if Charlie didn't kind of adjust, he was going to end up being booed off his own stages because people can't stand Israel. So if he's still standing with Israel, have friends that are doing that, you really need to sit down and talk to them. They will lose their reputations. They could lose their jobs. They could lose everything. To stay standing with Israel is going to be, the consequences are going to be massive. It doesn't mean you have to stand with Palestinians. It just means you have to stand with humanity and not be played as they're being played.
Actress Florence Pugh just co-hosted a sold-out Together for Palestine show in London.
It has been such a special evening to be a part of it, to witness it. Thank you for showing up. Silence in the face of such suffering is not neutrality. It is complicity. And empathy should not be this hard. And it should have never been this hard.
Together, these celebrities raised over $2 million for Palestinian relief efforts. And I think it's very important that they chose London as the home of this event, because the British government is currently arresting basically anyone and everyone who's willing to stand up for Palestine. It doesn't matter if you're an elderly Christian cleric or a disabled blind man. Everyone is getting arrested in the streets if they stand for Palestine. But you know who they're not arresting in the UK? The President of Israel, who just visited the UK and went to 10 Downing Street. For some reason, he is not arrested. He's welcomed with open arms in the UK. I don't understand how the president of a country that is committing a genocide in Gaza and bombing 6 other countries is welcomed with open arms, but people who are expressing their discontent with that are being arrested in the streets.
It's a very good point, because you can't criticize who controls you. So if you don't know who controls you yet, Israel controls America and the West. America is a colony of Israel. It's not the other way around. Israel is like these, it's not Israel. It's the founders. They're the bankers. They print the fake money. They control the Federal Reserve since 1913 to print money. They loan it to the U.S. government. They embroil U.S. government in fighting Israeli wars to try and take over the whole world. They control the West, and they increase taxes and create taxes such as income taxes, a Rothschilds invention. So U.S. government and Western governments have to tax the hell out of their people to pay that money back on fake money that they print with no asset backing in the Federal Reserve. That's the scam that's been going on up until recently, where the BRIC plus nations, Russia and China in particular, are going, we're not going to support this system anymore. We don't trust you. We're going to stop using the US dollar. And as a result, that's why World War III is coming. All wars are banker wars. And they're always fought over who gets to issue the currency. They don't want the BRICS issuing their own currency, because they would have a printing press, and the BRICS want to do it where it's actually asset backed, so you don't have rampant inflation where you can't money be stolen from you. Where in the West, it's being fleeced from you rapidly right now. They just printed so much money through COVID, etc. And to prop up the economy's mass immigration. If people realize, if Israel were to fall, it would end global terrorism, because they're the biggest sponsor of terrorism and coordinate most terrorist attacks. It would clean up the Islamic issue, because that's Israel behind that. Mass immigration is Israel. Who do you think bombs excess Muslim nations, and who do you think floods excess Muslims into the Western nations? If it's not Israel, the clergy plan. Income tax would be eliminated if you get rid of Israel. There's a lot of benefits to shutting down this failed state. They're not a legitimate state. They don't belong there. They can be relocated to Greenland or some part of Jewish autonomy zone that already exists in Siberia. They just should be shut down, sanctioned to death. We don't need war. We don't need these troublemakers. We don't need them printing fake money, ripping each and every single one of us off. We don't need them administering taxes over us so we get taxed, but their globalist controlled BlackRock, etc. companies get so much of the wealth out of Australia and out of the nations for free. They sucked the British Empire dry. They involved it in World War II, and with Churchill as a stooge, controlled Churchill, and they sucked it dry and destroyed it. And they jumped to a new host after end of World War II, which was America. And now, 75 years later, or 77 years later, or probably more, 80 years later now, since World War II ended, they've sucked the US dry, $37 trillion in debt. They're looking for a new host. They're looking for Asia, but China and Asia have figured out Israel. Do not let them get another host. Shut them down, cancel them. The cancel culture was introduced by Israel to cancel the rest of us. You'll own nothing but be happy. Let's cancel them. Let's just sanction them to death. They invented sanctions. Let's put them back on them. Let's ban weapon sales to them. And if they want to go and pick fights and start wars, well, let's cut off their military aid and let's see how Netanyahu with his big mouth is and see how, they're so good at self-defense. Let's see how good they are. They weren't very good on October 7th, were they? Strange that. But they're pretty good at sniping kids in the head, blowing kids to pieces. I mean, such heroes, You really should, if you're a Christian, you really should stand with God's chosen ones dropping bombs, and the only peace they want is pieces of children blown all over the Middle East. That's what you really should stand with now, shouldn't you? If you don't know what's right and wrong, and you need to read a Bible to know that, you don't even have to study theology to know that the side that's dropping bombs on children and lying and telling you the other side put babies in ovens and beheaded them. It turned out to be complete lies. Raped girls, complete lies. They lied with some of the worst lies ever. They just want you to think everyone else is evil, not them. Stop falling for their absolute bullshit.
I'm being contacted by a lot of people that are telling me that just within 48 hours before Charlie passed away, his top Jewish donors were pulling funding from him, demanding that Charlie take their name off of the building that they had donated to Turning Point. I guess I can figure out who that is, how many people could have donated the building. And then once Charlie was killed, they said, never mind, put it back on the building. Okay. Charlie himself had alluded to a tremendous loss of money coming in. And we'll speak about that more. More people are going to come out with information. This is all inevitable. Okay. And I'll also point you in this direction. You guys remember Bibi recently was on a PR blitz, despite the fact that he was, fighting this 96,000 front war because Israel didn't do nothing. Okay. He was doing a ton of podcasts in America. He went on to Patrick Bet-David's podcast. He went on to Brennan Tatum's podcast. He went on to the Nelk Boys podcast. Anybody find it weird he didn't do Charlie Kirk's show? Homie very quickly told us that Charlie was penning love letters to him in May. I just love you so much. It's amazing. They were so close. The boys just hits him up like, hey, I know we're fighting this 97,000 front war because we're always the victims, but do you want to just come and maybe stay at my place for the weekend here in Israel? Like, that's the vibe that Bibi was rushing to present to the media. So why didn't he do Charlie Kirk's show? I'll leave it as a question for you guys. Common sense, okay? I don't like small lies. And remember, Bibi started this. I am responding to his shamelessness, shameless misrepresentation of what Charlie was going through and what Charlie was saying. Because, and I want to be clear, to me right now, it feels, and I'm using a corporate term here, a bit like a hostile takeover, okay? Charlie builds the company organically on the basis of Charlie and Charlie's honest ideas. Suddenly, that company's got a lot of money, and Charlie's honest ideas are starting to change or maybe add more color. And now he's getting financial threats. He's being called names. He increasingly, He's being told who and what he's allowed to speak to, and he's taking a stance. He's taking a stand privately up to these people, and then it doesn't matter anymore because Charlie's dead, and those very same people who were pressing him are now doing, like, very quickly trying to set in stone that, oh, Charlie, essentially the energy is Charlie died for Israel. He's just one of us. Nobody ask any more questions. That is literally untrue, and we're not going to allow it. Okay.
Well done, Candace. I think she's doing, her and Tucker are doing an awesome job. They absolutely hate her. She's obviously beefed up her security, but it makes it harder for them to take her out because it becomes very blatantly obvious. But we need to, I think, pray and support people like Candace. She's got a lot of balls. And of course, they'll be told that everyone will be told in mainstream media she's a, conspiracy theorist, or, new one they tell people is anyone that speaks up against Israel, you're a Qatari funded. No, how about we're just decent humans who don't like you fucks for what you're doing? How's that? Pretty simple. And we're not going to be intimidated. We'd rather die exposing the fraud and lies of Israel than cower on our knees and please beg for fuck you, Netanyahu. And I say to anyone that supportive Charlie Kirk, if you haven't posted fuck you Israel yet, I'm going to suggest that you're going to let Charlie die in vain. Charlie was killed by Israel. That's 99% certain. That the extra 1%, I predict you will find out in the future. Why wait to find out in the future what they did? Why wait 24 years later to know they did September 11th? How many years has it been since they bombed USS Liberty in 1967? And some people still don't know. How many times they have to lie to you to get America to go to fight its wars, Iraq, weapons of mass destruction? Netanyahu is a pathological liar. He's a psychopath. He's a fucking child. He needs a good beating. We need regime change, but he needs to be locked up for being a war criminal. The guy is a complete, absolute loser. And anyone standing with a loser is a loser. So wake your friends up, because we will fund unlimited activism that in the future it's coming. I can warn you now. If anyone stands with Israel, they will lose their job. We will go after their employer, harass them, demand they sack them. If they have a business, blacklist their business. The momentum will grow that people, because that's what they do to us. They want to cancel us. We're going to cancel them and their supporters. Why? Because we're a force for good. They're a force for evil. And if people are too stupid, there's so much mounting evidence available for anyone now to be able to quickly assess that Israel is evil. That is not biblical Israel. They are not God's chosen ones. And how many, this is not anti-Jewish, because how many Jewish agree with exactly what I'm saying, and many others.
I'm not trying to be the heir to Turning Point USA. I kind of like my life. I don't want to take money from donors, okay? Because they do what they did to Charlie. They're not donating money to charity because they view it as a charity. They're doing it because they want to purchase your voice. That's it. And I don't want to give mine up. But what these people are telling me is a very dark story that involves these donors, sponsors, influencers, a takeover of sorts that I think was happening right under Charlie's nose. And I want to say this formally as we keep investigating this. I believe that Charlie Kirk was betrayed by people who are close to him. Based on what I have seen thus far, the evidence, the quote-unquote receipts that require a way deeper investigation into the apparatus, the financial apparatus at Turning Point, there was definitely some weird activity leading up to this moment happening at the organization, and I've been able to verify it. I have been given names, and I intend to now embark on this lengthier investigation, which I need more help on. I've reached out to some journalists. I'm sharing the information with them, and I think we're going to discover that this was ugly, uglier than we could have ever imagined, okay? There is a fear here that we are all perceiving, a desperation almost to end the investigation. The smears are becoming radical. You can't just pretend Candace hasn't spoken to Charlie Kirk in years, but they're doing it. And they're trying to be convincing and shocked and putting this out. I've never stopped talking to Charlie. I mean, yesterday I released just one of many messages that I have with Charlie, which prove that he was, in the months leading up to this, concerned about Israel and how Israel was coming after our free speech. Free speech meant a lot to him, right? This message is from May. We can pull that back up, right? Charlie sent me his tweet because after the assassination of Sarah Milgram and Yaron Lachinsky in D.C., people were calling for like hate speech laws. And Charlie authored a long tweet saying these were beautiful people. They had their lives ahead of them. But I must push back against one thing. And again, it was just the justification that this somehow meant that we had to, get rid of free speech. Like it was suddenly like, oh, well, this happened, so now we need to say free speech is wrong. And so I wrote back to him and I said, great tweet. And he gave prayer hands. And I said, speech censorship.
So much more is coming out as news pours in. And that's why we're able to put up $1 million straight away that Israel is behind it. 90% certainty. We increased that Australian National Review to $10 million shortly thereafter, because we said this is what Israel will do. They are the guilty party. They'll fund the influencers to push, and they'll martyr Charlie, make out, oh, Charlie loved us, we love Charlie. I mean, at least if they assassinate you, they'll say nice things about you. You've got to give them credit for that after they kill you, after they silence Charlie. I mean, then they've hijacked his memorial. They've hijacked and politicized the death of Charlie Kirk and all the people emotionally upset about that, to stand with Israel and to hate on Palestinians and to become Christian Zionists, and we're fighting the evil. Yet you're the ones that are the evil. I mean, it's a great inverse. And that's why I love what Tucker Carlson did, shared the true story of Jesus Christ. And we know who killed Jesus, and we know why. I thought his speech was absolutely brilliant. So what else is happening in the news? Well, plenty.
So somebody sent me this footage today. Let me know what you guys think, because it's a different angle and I had not seen this before. If there's any experts, let me know what you think.
This guy right here with the white hat, he starts it by creating a couple signals. He touches the bill of his hat and then he touches his ear. The guy that shot Charlie is over on this side, so he's seeing that guy and he's also seeing this guy. This guy has to get out of the way from the guy in the white, and he steps forward to get in front of this guy so that the guy that's over here that shoots him can see him, and he rubs his right arm. And then you can see this guy in the background. Watch this.
Do you know how many mass shooters there have been?
There goes the signals.
Over the last 10 years. Counting or not counting gang violence?
All right, this is where I really want you to pay attention. Do you see how this guy right here, he moved in front of that guy. He's actually leaning forward right here, and he's touching his arm so that this guy right here in the white shirt, you can see he's holding the gun right there. Watch this. This is terrifying, guys. If I go frame by frame, watch this. So if I back up a little bit, the moment the guy in black moves his arm out, watch what happens. When the arm comes out right here, watch what happens to this guy. See how he's got his arm up? Now that guy raises his arms and you can see the gun right here. This is it's gonna recoil. And then as soon as he gets done recoiling, Charlie moves. Here it comes. You're going to see that guy in the white shirt. He's going to lift his right elbow. Ready? Right here. He lifts his elbow. He's holding a gun. And watch what happens. He shoots it. His hand goes right back into place. And then Charlie gets hit. Watch this. Raise his elbow. Boom. Look at that. Watch the gun shoot right now, and watch Charlie get hit right now. Oh my God. Look at it. It's clear as day. The guy in the black shirt shows that guy in the white shirt in the background, his arm. The guy puts his gun up, puts his elbow up, pop, bang. Look at that. pop. Bang.
Yeah, so there's multiple different videos online being checked out as a possible killer. Of course, if you look at the pattern of Israeli assassination, say JFK, they have a patsy, Lee Harvey Oswald, like the shooter on the roof. It's not really the shooter, it's the person that's going to be framed, or they're going to blame someone for that. The shooter is usually going to be close range to make sure the kill occurs, often within the security detail, just like JFK was. That's usually their pattern: decoy, distraction, and someone close shoot. So that falls in line with that potential pattern. They claim for another angle that video, the guy wasn't holding a gun, was holding a phone. But we have done investigations, and there's multiple products available you can purchase of what looks like a phone, but it's a gun. You quickly turn it and it turns into a gun. It's not an actual phone, it just looks like that. So it doesn't debunk that. Whether that's the actual shooter there, we don't know. It could be someone else, but that individual, there was a definitive recall, had a clear line of sight. It hits on the side of the neck, which suggests why Charlie's neck was aggressively pushed the other way, and why there's evidence that was shown in previous videos of exit wound here. Also highlights when Candace Owens said there's, from the back, the camera she saw, there's no exit wound. Well, if he wasn't shot from the front, from the patsy they're blaming, if he shot from the front, there would be an exit wound here, most likely. The idea of magically went into his spine, the spine's so strong, it stopped the bullet. He's like Superman, and that saved someone behind. He's a hero. I mean, that sort of, I mean, who writes these scripts, right? So if he was shot, you know, from the side, his neck's gone that way, and there was a small exit wound on this side, that from the angle there would make sense. So we don't know 100%. There's more evidence coming out, but it should all be investigated. True?
So I really want you to pay attention to this. On Charlie Kirk's shooting, you see him right there? That's him debating with somebody here right before he gets shot. Right here. He got shot from his right-hand side, on that side, coming out here. See the wall there? Right next to him, his people, and another wall. I'm going to make this make sense in a second.
Counting or not counting gang violence?
All right, that's right when he gets shot. Right there. He got shot right then. Coming from that side of him, coming to here. Now see the wall? See the bleachers here? You see another wall there. They're saying he got shot from rooftop, which means he would have to be up from here, going down there, because he got shot from that side, coming out here. But I'm going to make something else very trivial. Where they said the shooter was, watch this.
A second later, he was shot in the neck, in the middle of the quad, sitting underneath a banner that said, "The American Comeback." We know one round was fired.
Okay, now, from what I just showed you, he's here, facing that direction. That's the wall you were seeing. Those are the bleachers you were seeing. Those are the people you were seeing. He got shot from here, going out there. Now they're saying he got shot from a shooter over here, which would make the trajectory basically in his throat, out his back. Impossible. This is a cover-up, people. He was shot from this side, going out that side. I know that. I'm ex-military, guys. I know how a bullet works. And if you saw the canopy in the beginning, you couldn't see the canopy, or so you couldn't see him from the canopy from up here, only from right here, because the canopy was very low, and if you look, you can only see people up this high, and he was shot from this direction, going out to that direction. They're saying the shooter was there. 100% impossible. If something happens to me, guys, please understand. I'm just trying to uncover this. They're covering it up 1,000%.
Well, very interesting. That just supports the previous video, which is the best evidence so far. Of course, you're not going to hear that on mainstream fake news media because they just want to close the case, and that the patsy, the story is so full of holes. It's getting so sloppy. As I said, Israel, their PR department's probably a little bit older. They can't deal with Generation X and Generation Y. They can't deal with the massive speed of the internet. of where citizen journalists are sharing information, whether, we have effectively tens or hundreds of millions or billions of people all sluiced now looking for potential clues. Some of them get it wrong, but it does bring a lot of information to light.
Breaking news, Russia has just issued a chilling warning to Israel. Since Israel announced plans to take full control, the world has been in an uproar condemning the move. Now Russia has stepped in, declaring that if Israel dares to proceed, Moscow will not stay silent and could launch severe action. Israel is now on high alert. Iran and Pakistan have also joined the warning, stating that if Israel makes any aggressive move toward, they will respond with strong measures. Meanwhile, the Western stance is shifting. Australia has announced it will officially recognize Palestine as a state, and Germany has halted all exports to Israel in protest. Yet one nation remains firmly in Israel's corner, the United States, standing by every decision it makes. The stakes couldn't be higher. If Israel enters God, Russia and Iran could unite for a large-scale military move, pushing the world dangerously close to a global conflict. So the question remains, after such overwhelming condemnation, will Israel still go ahead? And will the world finally take...
So you see it, obviously that alliance with Russia, Iran and China is becoming stronger. China knows they can't allow Russia to be picked off. Israel wants to pick them off individually. That's why they start them and brawl them in war. They use the US taxpayers' money and run up debt, which is their fake money they're printing through the Rothschilds, the Federal Reserve. So war profits them. They own the military industrial complex, where they charge 20 times the price of, say, China and Russia and Iran can produce weapons at, which also will be their downfall, their sheer greed. But if you see how the world works now, Israel, the controllers of Israel, their overlords control the West, and they want the Great Israel Project, and they want to extend that to the one world dystopian government. There's two factions of Israel. There's left globalist left faction and the right faction, which is Netanyahu. They generally hate each other, the woke versus the right faction. And that so-called democracy in the West is you have a Rothschilds bank and they'll let you choose between left and right faction. That's how they keep you divided. So you focus on hating each other, not focus on the common enemy who controls you. They want World War III because they lost the ability to print money. The printing press is open. It's closed because people aren't buying the scam anymore. And that's why they want to shift it into cryptocurrency. Stable coins shift stable coins have to hold US treasuries. That's what the Genius Act was, with Trump as the Trojan horse. That's why they will pump up crypto. That's why I'm a seller of BTC now. Not that it won't go higher, but it's now a manipulated asset. With the minting of USDT is like printing, US treasuries. It's just printing unbacked. They're meant to be backed, but the stablecoin act where all these stable coins will grow. They'll push everyone into crypto, and that will hold US treasuries, and then they'll just devalue that, and they'll get rid of their $37 trillion in debt in a great reset. That's their plan, which was exposed on the last episode by Russian ministers. So the extension they want, they need to take over and achieve their one world government. They need to destroy Russia, Iran, and China, and North Korea. The axis of evil, they will call them. Or they'll go, their typical playbook, we can bomb any country now because Hamas is there. They're now accusing Hamas being in China. I mean, it's just absurd, right? But they can just go, well, we can't just bomb a nation, so we've got to have some excuse. We just say we're going after terrorists. China harbors, or China's sending weapons to Iran, as if they can't. You're sending weapons to Ukraine and to everyone else, and America sends weapons to you. So it's forcing an alliance. So World War III, if it starts, is a bankers' war, Rothschilds' war, fighting over the issue of currency, and they want to take the West, which Australia belongs to be fighting against the rest of the world that they haven't taken over yet, and the countries that are joining the BRICS. Does that make sense? Which side should you be on? Should be on the side of humanity, which is those who support a multipolar world, oppose a one world government. And that ironically turns out to be Russia, China, Iran, and the BRIC plus nations, which is the majority of the world's population and the 40% of the world's GDP, and rapidly become the world's majority of GDP. It is the future. Australia could have an independent foreign policy and dump the Washington creep elites and its Israel control, and have an independent foreign policy. It should repair relations with China, its biggest trading partner. China's made the world rich. They produce products cheaply for us. They build roads, infrastructure. They don't want war. They're not opening military bases around the world. They're not planning war. That would be Israel. And Israel will lie to you to trick you, your governments, your politicians, your fake news media, their own, to have you cheering on genocide, as many people do, and cheering on more war. That's the choices you have, folks. You'll be educated and you won't fall for their bullshit. If your friends stand with Israel, it means they are unfortunately misled or evil. Either way, get new friends if you can't wake them up. That's all for the McIntyre Report. We'll be back with some more in just a few days.
What does $78,000 get you in Bali? Introducing Resort K and Vios by LUX. Studios from $79,000 AUD. Hotel-style amenities. Live, work, unwind. Unique design villas, live in or rent out. Prime Seminyak location. Steps to dining, buffets and beach clubs. Projected net annual returns, 12 to 18% PA. Thinking of moving to Bali? Own your place in Seminyak. Own at Resort K and Vios by Lux Seminyak.